22 часа 28 минут. Масса...
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Touchdown, we have touchdown. Excellent. Start, we have Dragon deploy verified.
And welcome to Spacevidcast 5.20 for Saturday, December 22nd, 2012. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me, as always, is beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented Carrie Ann Higginbotham. I'm going to tell you this straight up. We didn't think we were going to be here anymore. End of the world, so we didn't really prep a show.
We were out late last night. It was awesome.
Yeah, so this show, yeah. And actually,
we're still wearing the same clothes as yesterday.
Actually, stay tuned in the second half of the show. Weird. Second half of the show, Carrie Ann, gave her homework to go and look at our predictions for 2012 and see how good we did. And you said, on that show, I said the single dumbest thing I've ever said in my life, and I don't actually know what it is I said. She won't tell me. And so we get to hear the single dumbest thing, and I've said some stupid stuff, single dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, coming up at the second half of the show. But before we get there, let's go into some space news, starting off with Maston Space Systems, good friend Dave Maston. They tested their new Katana-class engine. Hang on, you know what? Let's just...
You gotta see this.
Well, it's just an engine test.
I know, but it's awesome.
All right, here you go. Boom.
I had to count again, but there was like 8 diamonds. Did you see that? Like it was so pretty.
It did look pretty. It reminiscent. If you go back and check the Super Draco tests that SpaceX posted, it was reminiscent of that. Yeah, it looked pretty freaking cool. So, I have stats on that engine too. If you'd like, hang on, I have to call them up. I don't remember them off the top of my head. I want to say it was 4,000 foot-pounds of thrust, rated up to 4,000 pounds of thrust. But the engine, with this engine running at 2,800 pounds of thrust.
It was a lot though. It may not have been 8. It may not have been 8, but I'm saying when you look at that video, there's like 4, at least 4, 6 possibly. It's hard to tell because of the angle, but
the gas exiting in excess of Mach 8. That's always awesome.
Awesome.
So awesome to Maston Space Systems continue. I wonder what they're going to use the engine for.
Probably for that barbecue.
Right. Actually, that was funny. That's a fun story. I don't know. I don't have the picture, but
oh, that's unfortunate. So Maston Space Systems lost 0 earlier this year.
Isn't it 0?
0.
Oh, whatever.
0, 0. It's made with an X anyhow. I'm sure we showed that video for sure, but there's enough of it where you can make a barbecue. So it's got the legs, and they just made it into a barbecue. So it's at Maston Space Systems, just living on in infamy as now an actual barbecue. They put little hot dogs on it and stuff. It's really cute.
I just thought that through.
I think it's a great way to recycle. What? You've got it's
Blew up the
scrap
rocket,
metal.
reuse it, turned it into a barbecue. I don't
What?
know.
I think that's awesome.
Moving right along. Dream Chaser, for those who don't know, we lost the space shuttle. That sounds foreboding, doesn't it?
Space shuttle program ended.
Space shuttle program ended,
Good heavens.
and there is no space shuttle replacement per se. We're going back to capsules, except for this. This is Sierra Nevada's Dream Chaser. They did a drop test of a, I want to say, 1/15th scale model of the Dream Chaser earlier this year, but they are prepping to do a for realsies drop test of a full scale model, or of a full unit, full thing, by March. It wouldn't be a working unit, but
mock-up.
A mock-up. There you go. That's I was looking for the word. Drop test of a full mock-up by March. So that's kind of and that'll be, I believe, at Dryden. I believe they did it before
think so.
Dryden, so it'll probably still be at Dryden.
They're up
Yeah. So that is the way that works is it launches atop a rocket like an Atlas. Oh, hey, you know what? I can go back to the picture and describe it way better.
Okay.
Boom. Check this out. You know, I'll drop the
Boom.
graphic. Boom.
So it's sort of like the arrow at the end of a. It's like the actual arrowhead at the end of an arrow.
Kinda, yeah. So you can see it launching atop an Atlas V rocket, then it separates from the Atlas V. You've got 7 humans on board, just as you would with the space shuttle. It can then go up to the International Space Station, dock, do what you need to do, and then it lands like an airplane, just like the space shuttle did. So the big difference here is, unlike taking, the space shuttle, you took off and you had the 2 external boosters and the that's not what this. Wow! I told you.
Wow.
That's not 2 external boosters on the space shuttle would be kind of cool looking.
Sure.
It had the
Let's
2
do that.
solid rocket motors and a 1 external booster on the space shuttle. So this is the equivalent of just kind of strapping on a big external tank on the bottom of it instead of on the side. And the advantage of this is if there's any foam liberation, it's not going to hit. What did I say that's making you laugh?
Nothing.
All right, moving along. More space plane type stuff. Spaceship 2 is gliding with its rocket engine. That's right. It looks like they've actually completed at least the engine to the point where they can put it in for glide tests. Now, Virgin Galactic has not tested actually firing the engine while in the air yet. Hopefully that will come early 2013, and we'll kind of come into some prediction stuff for 2013 in the second half of the show.
Right.
But this is a next major milestone for the Spaceship 2 vehicle. For those who don't know, Spaceship 2 is the space plane that will go suborbital and allow mere mortals, although richer mere mortals, to actually travel, right? I mean, I can't afford
Hey,
it.
it could be people who put 3 mortgages on their house. You don't know.
I suppose. At $20,000 per seat, you too can fly on Spaceship 2 and visit space for 5 minutes and experience 5 minutes of weightlessness, suborbital space.
And this is done by Virgin Galactic.
Virgin Galactic.
Which may sound familiar because they also are part of the Virgin Atlantic and Virgin Records, also Virgin Mobile family.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It's Richard Branson.
So their future is starting to look pretty bright. They're woefully behind schedule, though.
Woefully.
But they have said that they'll fly when they're ready and when it's safe.
Yeah, and that
So
makes way more sense.
It does, although I still would like to see them starting to fly, right? I want this next era of new space to begin, and yes, certainly SpaceX is doing stuff, but I want others too, right?
Yeah.
I want Virgin Galactic, I want X-Core, I want
It's more
Sierra
fun
Nevada.
with more people at the party.
It's more fun with more people at the party. Otherwise, you end up with this. So this is the space launch. I mean, that sounded negative. I don't mean it to sound.
Otherwise, you only have one person at the party, and everyone knows how lonely that is. Is that what you meant, Benjamin?
Sure. That's what I meant. That's what I meant by that. That's absolutely what I meant by that. So here's this. This is the Space Launch System. The core of the Space Launch System, the middle portion, has completed its preliminary design review, or PDR, and they're basically ready to begin building it, which means that according to NASA, they're right on track for a 2017 launch date. And if I remember my SLS stories correctly, they're going to look to do an Apollo 8 kind of style thing with the Space Launch System, where they'll launch it with the Orion crew capsule up top,
Yep.
uncrewed, just
Right.
empty. And they'll go around the moon and sling it around back to us just to see if they can do that. And then they don't launch again for a number of years. And the next time they launch, they actually put humans on board. So yeah, the chat room is saying interesting things about whether or not they'll be ready. So in all fairness, we take politics as well, it's hard. The problem with the space launch system is it's riddled with politics, right? So, but if you take that aside, it comes back down to whatever gets humans out into the cosmos and helps us stay there. So, I'll leave it at that. Ariane Space, if you're familiar with them, over at the ESA, they've launched successfully their 53rd time.
Awesome.
And this launch was...
That's awesome.
I know, right? So we're a space show, so we'll show you a video of this launch. But this happened a couple days ago, and it was with 2 satellites. They're telecommunication satellites. One of them is actually named Skynet. Yep, they actually named satellites Skynet. But here you go. Here's the launch.
Somebody had to do it.
I know. Here's the launch from ESA. Or, I'm sorry. Here's the Ariane launch.
4, 3, 2, 1, top. Allumage du cant. Allumage des 2 EAP et décollage. La propulsion est nominale, tous les paramètres à bord sont nominaux.
All right. Missed that cut, didn't I? Yeah, the launch goes on for several more minutes, but it's at night, and I don't like to show.
It's hard to see, unfortunately.
It is what it is. You know, if you want to see the whole launch, hit this link right here. Boom, right about there. You can actually watch the entire launch. It was beautiful and it was awesome, and it just goes to show the stability of the Ariane launch platform.
Yeah, it was
Ariane
pretty
5.
flawless.
Yeah, and we talked in previous shows about them moving to the Ariane 5 midlife evolution, I believe it's ME, and then the Ariane 6 as well. So extensions of the Ariane 5, essentially changing the upper stage, and then a whole new rocket when it comes to the Ariane 6. So that was, I believe, our last show, 5.19. So go ahead and check that out if you wanted to learn more about Ariane Space. But speaking of launches, we've got another launch. This is the Russian Soyuz. This is the Expedition 34-35 crew heading up to the International Space Station. Once again, space show. So here's your launch. By the way, before I go into that, notice the difference in countdowns between these 2 launches.
Okay.
So Russia and the U.S. back in the Cold War, for whatever reason, we decided to kind of standardize on 0 being the moment of liftoff, not when the rocket engine fires. Whereas Ariane Space, 0 is where the rocket engine fires, but it took like 10 more seconds for it to actually start lifting off the pad. I always found that weird. But pay special attention to public affairs officer who you hear voicing this over, and the countdown at which, just listen to the countdown.
Second Belleville Tower now separating. 15 seconds and counting.
Preliminary.
Preliminary command confirmed. Engines firing.
Main liftoff.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff of Tom Marshburn, Roman Romanenko, and Chris Hatfield making their way towards the International Space Station.
All parameters are normal. We copy. It's all on board. We are feeling well.
Getting good first stage performance, the Soyuz delivering 102 tons of thrust from its forward strapped-on boosters and single-core engine.
Stages.
First stage of that Soyuz measuring 68 feet in length and 24 feet in diameter, burning liquid fuel for the first 2 minutes and 6 seconds of flight.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and leave! Oh my God, it lifted off!
Those were totally the fastest seconds ever. You don't always have to start a countdown at 5, right? You could just be like 3, 2, 1.
I don't know. So clearly there was some delay that they were trying to work through. I also find it interesting that engine is sitting there burning, and it feels like the flames are just coming up around the vehicle and engulfing the whole thing. And you're like, that does not look safe. And
Just let it go.
The Russians are like, it's on fire.
It's fire. It's go.
Space.
Oh, God.
All right. I do want to show. I know we're a little bit late for the next segment, but I want to show this anyhow. The Orion.
He laughed so hard, you guys, when he saw this.
I don't know why it makes me laugh. All right, I'll just play it
hard.
because we have to voice it over. So this is the Orion parachute test. You'll notice they did parachute tests earlier. What this is they're testing to see failure modes for the Orion parachutes.
Right.
And
Well, before they did some drop tests, and we've shown the drop test before.
Sure.
And this is the parachute
so
test.
here's the drogue that goes, and I believe it was one of the drogues that was designed to fail. So the second drogue kind of opened like it was, and there's an Orion. I know.
The whole carrier aircraft just burps an Orion.
I know. I don't know why that makes me like. It's like drogue, blah.
He
He
died.
just rips this Orion away.
By the way, is done. That's designed to do exactly that.
I know, but it looks
You want
hilarious.
some high speed,
Oh.
yank it off of the aircraft carrier that's...
I know. I still think it's hilarious.
I don't know,
looking.
he showed me and I was like, yeah, man. And he's
Obviously-
like, oh, it's hilarious. Oh, the Orion capsule.
Oh my god! Apparently, I'm the only one who finds it funny, but I do in fact find it funny.
Yes.
All right, stay with us. Last year's prediction. See how much of it we got right. And it was a successful test.
Yeah.
Is asking the yeah, it was exactly what they wanted to see. It worked great. Blah blah blah. We'll be right back.
Look into her face, determination in her eyes. She won't give up or quit or fumble little fashion lines. Filled with awesome expectations, this girl's a fascination. And nothing in her way will keep her from her destination. 'Cause she's fire walking, she's fire walking. When it's hot, she keeps on moving. Through the heat, keeps on improving. Yeah, she's fire walking, she's fire walking to be free.
Actually, no more launches for the rest of 2012, I
Right.
believe. So
This year.
and in fact, I believe this may be our last show of the year. I have a feeling we're not going to do one next week. So I do want to wish everyone a happy 2012 and a happy upcoming 2013. And we look forward to doing some awesome shows in the future. But before we go into our predictions for 2013, I had you do that homework of 2012. And
I have notes.
we should see how we fared in our predictions for 2012. So this was, what episode was this?
2-1.
4.21. All right, so
And it was actually filmed, recorded in 2012. But it
Okay.
was our first show in LA.
that's right, and we didn't actually swap out the season until March or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I just want to be clear. So if anyone's looking for it, you can hit up spacevidcast.com. I searched for 2012 or 2011, and it popped up as one of the few. It's 4.21. It's also called A Look Back at 2011 and Forward to 2012.
All right. So we should call this episode A Look Back to 2012 and Forward to 2013.
Sure.
Actually, I should let you guys name this episode because, and you'll see in viewer comments, best name of an episode ever by Trent. But we didn't actually call it that, so I should have let Trent. We need to let
should have.
Trent name all of our episodes. All right, go ahead. So, first prediction.
ESA's Vega launch on February 9th of 2012.
Did it launch?
I don't know. I tried to look it up and I couldn't find it. ESA had a Vega launch though. I mean, at least
Yeah, I think they had a test launch.
One
if I
at
remember
some
right.
point,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it was. I can't believe I don't remember, but yeah. Okay, we're gonna call that one.
right. We laughed wholeheartedly about whether or not Curiosity was going to land or fail. We figured that Sky Crane would go into effect, but then something would just let go, and all of Curiosity would just crash down into Mars. And we laughed pretty hard about that, actually.
Dude, Sky Crane was crazy. Still is crazy. For those wondering, it's nuts, but it worked. So you know.
Precisely what you
So
said
wh-
last time.
Really? Well,
Oh, yeah. You were like, because, dude, Sky Crane is crazy.
I'm glad I'm consistent then. All right. But yeah, it was an epic win on that one.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that was amazing.
Okay.
The Orion flight test in 2012, and you very wisely were like, 2012, I'm sure, or beyond. So I looked that one up, and it's now scheduled for 2014. You talked about, I said, oh, are we going to be able to watch that test flight? And you said, yeah, on the SVC Live channel. You said that. You said that.
What's wrong with the Spacevidcast Live channel? We don't really have one anymore. But
Yeah.
we do
No,
this.
but you were like, oh, no, we're totally, absolutely, because we're so,
Blah,
our
blah,
live
blah.
channel, blah, blah, blah,
We still
blah,
have a
blah.
live channel. That's how people are watching right now.
Anyhow. The SpaceX launch was, the COTS 2-3 CC Dev was supposed to go off February 7th. Didn't actually go off till May 22nd.
Yeah, whatever.
right?
Still happened in 2012, so that's a win.
We talked about going to Space Up San Diego, which we did do, and then how we kept hearing rumblings of other space ups. And the interesting thing to me was that the only space ups that we listed were like Florida, Minnesota, Michigan, Houston, that kind of thing.
So
and
almost none of them actually happened.
almost none of them in the U.S. happened. We didn't even remotely predict that Space Up was going to take off overseas. Since then, there's been like 3 or 4 of them since September that are all happened overseas.
Awesome.
It's amazing. It's totally awesome. And then my single favorite thing.
Is this what I said that was stupid?
Yes, that you've ever said, and it's on record and everything.
Yep.
We were talking about Phobos Grunt.
Yeah.
And for some reason, you couldn't exactly remember the mission of Phobos Grunt. I don't know why.
I seem to remember.
And so you're like, so Phobos Grunt is
goes
going
to
to Enceladus,
Enceladus,
right, everybody?
I remember doing that.
And
My
then-
brain, and then I'm like,
10 to
or
15 seconds
Phobos.
later, you didn't correct yourself, though. The chat room corrected you, and you're like, oh my god, of course, I'm so stupid. Of course Phobos Grunt is going to Phobos. You even called it, you were like Phobos Grunt or Phobos Ground. And you never made that connection. And so the chat room started yelling at you. Thank you, Zigger, by the way, who was shouted out on the last episode of correcting Ben. Yeah, Phobos or Phobos Grunt. We're going to Phobos, one of the moons of Mars, by the way, in case you weren't aware. That for some reason you were completely convinced was going to Enceladus. You mentioned it 2 other times in that show.
Well,
about
hang
how
on.
stupid
I
it
was
was
right.
that you see
I
that.
was, in a way, I was right. So Enceladus, a rock of ice, essentially, right? Phobos never really actually got out of Earth's atmosphere and plummeted back into the ocean, which is just liquid version of ice. So, in a way, I was right.
So the Phobos Grunt mission did end up failing originally. It tumbled back down to Earth in January 15th of 2012, but they are going to be sending another one up for the same mission in 2014.
So, all right, we should have predictions on that one. We should have a Phobos. We should have a Phobos bet jar going on. All right. Anything else that we have for?
No, then we had a whole lot of, well, that's basically it for this year. You tell us what you think is going to happen with China, with commercial satellites, with humans in space. You know, if Russia still keeps having these issues, what are we going to do? Everyone, please leave your comments on our website.
And no one did.
And then we never talked about it again.
We fixed that though.
Sort of, except there were 8 comments on the original website that didn't port over. So now when you go to it, it doesn't look like there's any. It says that there's 8 comments and I can't get to them.
Oh.
We'll fix that later though.
Will we? But really, will we?
We'll figure something out. Anyhow, so there you go.
All right, so before I spoil your list.
You always say this.
Yep, because you always just regurgitate what I say.
Because I never think about it.
But you knew that was the topic. It says right
I
there,
got
predictions
homework.
for space. So what are your 2013 predictions for space, other than the...
Okay, so I think that some of the companies that we've been talking about very late on in the year, we've always been talking about Maston, but you know, Dream Chaser's coming right along.
Because I have a man crush on Maston.
Who doesn't?
And he knows it too.
But you know, Maston Space Systems is doing some really big strides, and they're kind of doing a slight Apple thing where they're keeping a lot of it quiet, right?
Yeah.
They're not necessarily going, "Hey, everybody, this is totally things that we've got going on." But like, you know, some stuff you kind of find it, and it doesn't leak out necessarily, but somebody will just trip over a Maston video and go, "This is so cool!"
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So what's your prediction of Maston then in 2013?
I think they're just going to continue along, and I think more so outside of the tiny little Maston stalkers that we are. I think more people are going to hear about them and be familiar with the name. There's a friend of mine who lives out on the East Coast who was saying something about like, yeah, I went to this conference and like everything was Maston, and I hadn't really ever heard anything other than when you guys talk about him. So I think that's going to be...
Ahead of the game, Spacevidcast is.
No, I do. I mean, I think that a lot more people are going to become more aware of Maston Space Systems and everything that they're doing, and they're not a joke, and they didn't just win Northrop Grumman Lunar Lander Challenge and then go into a hole somewhere. They're doing a lot of really great stuff, and so...
Speaking of, whatever happened to Armadillo? I mean, I know they're still doing stuff, but we don't really cover them all that much.
Well, that's because Wicked has not made any videos for them anymore. It's basically what it comes down to. They lost their Brockert.
They lost their Brockert.
Yeah.
.com or something, right? Other predictions for 2013?
I think Dream Chaser's gonna come along as well, but again, I don't think any of these things are gonna happen fast enough. I don't think we're gonna see really big things happening until 2014. Honestly,
do you ever
or like really late 2013?
Do these things ever really happen and you feel like they're big at the time though?
Yeah, there was this really cool launch that happened this year called SpaceX.
All right, fair enough.
Right? Not only, I mean, they birthed with the International Space Station.
So, I can't comment on SpaceX at all
Right,
for
but that's-
2013, but
that's
you
fine.
can because you have no information on SpaceX whatsoever. So
Basically.
what do you think will happen to SpaceX in 2013?
I think, well, because there were a couple issues in this last launch. That
The engine one anomaly?
the engine one anomaly. I'm sure knowing NASA is, everybody wants everything to be safe, right? So I know that they're looking into it, but my understanding is that until all of that stuff sort of gets resolved, that the pace of everything is kind of slowed up a little bit. So I know that they a year or two ago had wanted to target another February launch. And yet I haven't heard any rumblings of whether or not that's still on track. So I'm guessing that's going to get pushed off really soon. That kind of thing. But Grasshopper's coming along really well, it seems. I know that there was a test not all that long ago that seemed to do really well. I get the little media emails from them, et cetera, et cetera. And I've seen some pictures from Vandenberg. That looks like that's coming along pretty good. And because we've got friends up in Mojave and Dryden, and they'll just take a little trip to Vandenberg and follow parabolic arc is all I'm saying. So all of that stuff seems to be doing really well. But again, I don't think there's going to be a lot of like huge crazy news in 2013 other than SpaceX launched again and they totally went to the ISS again and everything was totally fine again.
So I don't know. I think 2013 might be the year Virgin Galactic. They did their onboard mortar drop test at the end of this year. I think at the beginning of next year, they're going to start doing actual engine firings. I think by next year, they will make it to space with a human on board, but not a paying customer. I don't think...
just a pilot?
Just a pilot. I don't think Virgin Galactic will make it to space with paying customers in 2013. I think we're out to 2014, 2015 with that, unfortunately. But I think we're only 2 years away, as we always say. But everything feels like it's progressing at this glacial pace, but it is progressing.
It is progressing.
Right? They've done the drop tests. We see these vehicles. Now they have an engine on board. We're at a point now where it's just finish testing and make it go. Having said that, who knows what actual problems are on the vehicle, right? I mean, this could all be for show, too.
Right. It could be, but if anyone else had to put on a show, it's Richard Branson. So, I mean, I'm kind of okay with that, I guess.
That's true. I think Sierra Nevada, they made a good chunk of money off of the latest contracts. I think we're going to see some pretty cool stuff coming from them. But again, nothing much beyond the drop tests that we've already announced. I don't think we're going to see any huge... I kind of agree on that. I don't think we're going to see any huge stuff there. I think the tipping point was actually 2010 when all of this started to begin, but you didn't see anything.
Right.
And we're not going to really see... I think I agree. I think we're not going to really see the fruits of this until 2014. I would actually say 2015. I think 2014
I think it'll
might
be a little bit
bit
earlier than that. I think it'll be like really late 2013. Kind of like exactly this time next year.
I think what's going to happen in 2013 is we're going to start to see the beginnings of it, but the really big stuff, the really awesome epic stuff, 2015.
Right.
And then I think we're SLS in about 3 to 4 years will not go very far. They just don't have the budget. I mean, just the politics are in the way of SLS, the Space Launch System. So I don't think we're going to see a whole lot with Space Launch System. We'll see a bunch of press releases. We'll see a bunch of words about it.
Maybe we'll get NASA's socials to other drop tests.
That might be kind of cool. But I think that's about it from my prediction list for 2013. I know that's fairly boring and bland, but I think 2013 might actually be a fairly boring and bland year. It's going to be much the same. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of stuff that people and organizations are working on.
Right.
But I don't think we're actually going to see the fruits of that in a constant way in 2013. We're just going to see little blips here and there. And then again, like I said, 2014, and actually I really do think more like 2015, just because this stuff does take so long to actually figure out. It's hard to swear. Dare I say it's rocket science. I would love to know. Unlike last year, we figured out the show format where we cut it up and we do viewer comments, and they're an active part of every single show now. So we would like to hear what you say. We'd like to hear what you say. We'd like to know what you think. What do you think is going to happen in 2013? What are your predictions for human spaceflight, for the current aerospace industry? Where do you think we're going to go over the course of the next year? And we'll have a fun time, and we'll look back at everyone's predictions next year and see how we
and
how we
point and
fared.
laugh at all of you.
And us too, where they're like, dude, SpaceX built the blah, blah, blah,
Maybe
now they're
Phobos
on
Grunt
Mars.
will go to Enceladus this time around.
Maybe Phobos will go to Enceladus.
One can only hope.
That's great. All right. Speaking of viewer comments, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, stuff you said about last week's show. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Endeavor, come on, dude! Go, baby!
Oh my God, he's pretty good at that.
Let's go! Hey, you gotta do the elevator scene. Come on.
Oh yeah.
Elevator scene. Oh, that's awesome.
And you're welcome for that.
Thank you to Nathan Wong and Leo Camacho for making complete fools of themselves in front of Endeavor for that lovely video. That was the X Prize Foundation's Christmas or holiday party at the California Science Center that obviously is here in California, and
I would hope so.
Right in front of Endeavor, which was kind of cool.
So let's take a look at some comments from last week's show. I think this is my favorite. And by the way, I'm going to give kudos to Trent. He posted this on the spacevidcast.com website. We've got the new Discus comment system in there. We like it because you can actually, anywhere you comment, you can actually view your threads, you can follow it, you can see other people's comments, you can stay informed. I'm not getting paid to say any of this. We don't get anything.
No, we just really like it.
It doesn't cost us anything to use it. We just really, really like it, and it makes our lives easy trying to bring your comments back into the show. So please, when commenting, if possible, spacevidcast.com, which is also the best place to watch our show, because if YouTube ever delays the show, we don't delay it on SpaceVidcast. It's also where you can watch your ad-free epic versions. But here's his comment. As much as I like Alan Stern and all the other great people on Golden Spike's board of directors and advisors, we've yet to see a space company with no money actually do anything. Here's the C code. The C code should have been the title of last week's show, in my opinion. I think that is absolutely hilarious. I tend to agree. It's without the money, you have to follow the money. You can have the most impressive list of people on the planet. If there's no money, you can't pay them. They can't do anything. They can't make anything. They can't go anywhere. So we're trying to follow the money, and we're having a really hard time doing it. It's an interesting idea. It's an interesting concept, but without backing, it's nothing. Unfortunately, I don't mean to be harsh, but that's where it's at.
You know, interesting tidbit. Did you know that the Higginbothams have their own space program?
I did not know that.
Yeah, no, the announcement is coming really soon. It's the Higginbotham Space Program. Mm-hmm. So, HSP for you. HSP. Well, so we'll have another TLA to give you there, three-letter acronym. Yeah, the HSP. And, yep.
No funding, but grand ideas.
No funding, but
no fundies.
Darn it, we're going to land on Jupiter.
I think HSP needs to think that through a little more. All right, this one you're going to take.
Oh, God. Of course you gave me this one.
Yep.
Man, you suck. Okay. My 2 cents on the spin-off debate. I agree that a mission needs a purpose and any spin-offs are an added bonus. However, there are people out there who do not care for space. You talk to them about resources in space, the wonder of space, or the idea of making humans a multi-planet species so that we will live on if something bad happens here, but they still see space as a waste of their tax dollars.
So the fundamental concept behind this, we're not going to read the rest of it. You can read it yourself. The fundamental concept behind this entire comment is for the people who don't believe in space, you can use spin-offs as a way to promote space to them. And I still disagree. I think people are still misunderstanding. What I'm digging on spin-offs for, I'm not saying the spin-offs themselves are bad, nor am I saying you shouldn't advertise them after the fact.
Right.
I'm saying they should be advertised after the fact. You should not use spin-offs as a reason to launch a mission.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Spin-offs themselves are fine. After the fact, after you've created the spin-off and the mission's already done its thing, and you said, hey, look at this awesome thing we got, that's okay too, but it is not a way to justify future space missions. Those future space missions should stand on their own 2 feet without needing to say, hey, we're going to spend $1 billion, we don't really know why, but think of the spin-off technology. That's a terrible, terrible reason to have a space mission.
I have to play devil's advocate. Like, I have to.
You don't actually have to.
Yes, I do, because you're not always right.
You could agree.
So,
no, I am
secondly,
always right.
Really? Phobos Gruntus going to Enceladus. So, I will say that in your favor, that if someone said, no, we're totally going to launch a huge telescope in space, and the best part is, we'll be able to have better breast cancer predictions, I would be like, don't care. Like, I'm sorry, but don't care. All and right. Like, if you couldn't come up with those spin-off technologies without the mission, right? Like, in my mind, you're right. In my mind, that's not a good enough.
I thought you were going to play devil's advocate.
No, I know. Normally, I do, and so I kind of have to.
So wait, we just went from you're wrong to you're right. Just goes to show, bam, I am indeed always right.
Anyhow.
So Bill says, very soon tax dollars won't matter anymore when it comes to humans in space. Tax dollars come with too much corporate welfare and Senate power baggage to be useful for funding space ventures. Interesting concept. This was actually this was buried down a little bit on a thread on the comments on Spacevidcast. So go back to episode 5.19 and you can see that whole thread on spacevidcast.com. I thought that was but I ripped it out of that thread and dropped it in there because I thought that was a really good just idea that, maybe it doesn't matter anymore. Mm-hmm. Maybe governments don't need to build these huge programs and maybe they'll just be the infrastructure guys like they are everywhere else. So, interesting concept. But the question remains, much like we were talking about with Golden Spike, where's the money? SpaceX has figured it out. Mm-hmm.
Somebody else can too.
Well,
One
I guess
is a lonely number. And it makes
I guess
for
maybe
a
not.
Maston
Maston seems to be doing pretty good,
Maston,
right? They're small, but
Yeah.
they're doing pretty good as compared to SpaceX. It's like 20 people as compared to 3,000 or whatever
Right.
SpaceX is at. Armadillo seems to be doing okay. I mean, these other small companies aren't doing poorly, but they're not doing SpaceX well. Right? At least it doesn't feel like
No one's birthed with the ISS yet, other than SpaceX.
Yeah, but do they need to? I mean,
no, but I'm just as a thing. Anyhow.
So Bobbert for him. Mm-hmm. Interesting name. I don't share your enthusiasm. For better or worse, Golden Spike is a paper airplane. I'll let you guys read a little bit of it, but I hope they have a perfect game because dependable line to the moon is decades overdue, but they will need to earn some credibility first. Basically, the concept being, it's neat, but there's nothing backing it. I'm not sure anything will happen.
I love the line, like, they need to build some credibility first. Really, if they get to the moon, credible.
Yeah, I
don't care.
if
they're there. They get to phone home and go, hi, I'm on the moon.
I'm credible. I'm on the moon.
Kind of.
Where are you?
What up now, man? Like, come on.
I bet you're having a good day because I'm on the moon. I don't ever really buy into the credibility argument.
Yeah, I don't either.
A lot of people said that about SpaceX too. Like, but they're not credible. They haven't done it. Yeah, well, they haven't. Not credible. They haven't done it.
You're not credible until you do it. So
Yeah, you just got to do
Other
it.
than that point, then I don't care.
And there's nothing you can do to become credible other than to do it.
Do
So
it.
I understand the need to say, yeah, well, they haven't done anything yet, so blah, blah, blah. But you
And at the
shouldn't
same
dismiss
time-
them.
At the same time, you can't be like, well, NASA, they're totally credible. Because look what's happened, man. We haven't been back to the moon in 40 years.
That's true. Although...
They totally did
Hang
it
on.
once.
We cannot
It's cool.
Can't blame NASA for that. Why didn't Russia go? Why hasn't China gone?
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, then with that line of argument, the only people that are credible are NASA.
Yeah.
That's things I can't say.
Flip
on
side of the
air.
argument from Helios Works AV. Even Golden Spike doesn't leave the drawing board, is planted a seed into people's minds. So this is a good thing because it's bringing awareness, it's planting seeds into the human consciousness, as it were, and getting people excited about space. I'm not sure I disagree. I don't know what the real answer here is, right? I guess that's a valid point.
And we always come down to this sort of thing. There isn't one answer. You need to attack this problem from every single angle you can.
Sure.
It's a big monster, if you want to look at it that way.
More people trying to, you know what?
More people doing
trying it.
more stuff.
And you're going to have more people failing, but that's okay. Failure isn't the end. It's just one possible outcome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't be afraid of failure.
Failure
don't
is
strive for failure, but don't be
Failure's
afraid
not just
of
an
failure.
option, it's actually encouraged. Fail often and fail soon, though. And then you get over it really quickly.
I suppose. I'm not sure. I would argue, just don't strive for failure.
I'm not
but don't be
striving
afraid,
for failure,
but don't be afraid
of
it.
risk.
Yeah. One question, this is Golden Spike going to the moon, putting humans on the moon. How are they going to solve the radiation problem being on the moon and crossing the belts, referring to the Van Allen belts, I assume. That's Porvina. This is from YouTube. Same way we did it with Apollo, right? We've done this once before, we can do it again. Even Van Allen himself is like, dude, I mean, yeah, you got to think about them, but it's not like you're going to just die immediately going through them.
It's not a force field, people.
It's not a force field, people. That, I believe, is the title of the show. It's not a force field, people. Yeah, no, just be smart about it, right? You have to be aware of solar flares pointed right at you, and you can then actually just even then encase yourself in water, but even then you don't even have to do that.
Well, keep in mind, there's entire generations of people at this point who are also on YouTube who have never known, really, humans on the moon.
Well, we weren't even alive when humans left the moon.
No, I'm just saying, but, YouTube can be filled with a number of people
Conspiracy theorists.
who may or may not believe that we've been to the moon, and then their children who also are not necessarily familiar.
The dumbing down of humanity.
I'm just saying, to be fair, still, it's not a force field.
So Ponderlust brings up, this was me talking about how I want to do the show from the moon and have the Earth in the horizon in the background.
Right.
Saying that, well, you'll never see the Earth rise on the moon, only from a ship going around the moon. And that's correct because the moon is Earth-locked, so it's tidally locked to us, so it doesn't rotate like the Earth does. Mm-hmm. I don't think I said Earthrise. I probably said in the horizon, but I don't think I actually said Earthrise, because that...
But you will be able to see, when you're on the moon, you will be able to see the Earth in the background.
Depends
on
on
some points.
Yeah, it depends on where you're at in the moon, and that would be the point, is we would have the Earth in the background behind us on the moon, like in giant windows. That's what I'd love to do. But you have to find the right point on the moon for the Earth to be in the right area, which you may not be able to do due to radiation concerns, heat concerns, other things. It's just something that I think would be awesome and fun, and
just saying.
Something I want to do. And you can say that user's name.
Yep.
It ends in comments. Ends in comments.
Is it like Ehadix comments?
I have no idea.
Ehadix
I believe that
comments?
if humanity maintained and built upon the enthusiasm for space exploration, which was cultivated during the space race, then it would have progressed a lot further in space exploration by now. But instead, like lazy fat cats, it is relapsing into idleness, and thus it has become preoccupied with short-sighted and downright petty focuses. Tired of being trapped on the Earth? Want to explore the stars. Yeah. You can always go back and say, what if, what had, if you look at one of those moments in history where you just had this huge uptick of technology and science and the wellness of life for people, space race was pretty much it, right? The amount of technology coming out of that was astronomical. Ha, pun intended. And it's a little bit sad that we no longer have that anymore. We don't have an active space race per se, but this new space race, the new space, race, there you go.
New space race?
New space race is exciting. It's doing Apollo without the moon per se, but going to Mars, possibly some companies going to the moon, but staying, not flags and footprints, actually staying.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exciting too. And Apollo was a perfect storm, but it showed that we could do it. And now what we need are the Howard Hughes of the industry to come in and say, and we can repeat this, and I can do it better, I can do it more awesome,
right.
and just having fun and playing with it and making it go. Maybe that's Elon Musk, maybe that's Dave Maston, maybe that's John Carmack, maybe that's a little bit of all of them. But kudos to all of them for giving it a shot.
Totally.
And I don't think it's quite as dire as sometimes a lot of people make it sound.
Yeah.
We are in a very, very exciting time right now. There's a lot of amazing stuff going on. As much hard time we give SLS, most powerful rocket humans have ever built, ever. Imagine what you could do with that, right? Just put a creative mind, assuming it gets built, which maybe it will. Assuming it gets built, imagine the payload you could put down that.
Right.
Imagine what you could actually do with that. Even outside of that, you've got SpaceX doing amazing things with rocket reusability and their new MCT, whatever that's going to end up being. That sounds pretty awesome. You've got Masten Space Systems, this little 20-person company making engines that you could use to essentially land on the moon. Right? I mean, you could use that engine for something like that.
Yes. Some reason in my head, because you said MCT and then Master right after it, I was like, Maston Company Talks.
Maybe that's what it stands for.
We don't know.
The SpaceX MCT is a Maston Company Talk.
Yeah.
So
SpaceX buying Maston, that would be awesome. Can I predict that?
Oh, all right. Predict it. Your prediction.
I shall say, in 2013, because it's not really going to happen. In 2013, SpaceX will start talks with buying Maston.
Really? Start talks with buying Matt. Could you make that less definitive?
Sure, they're totally going to buy them by March 31st.
There you go.
Is that better?
All right. So those are our comments from this last week's show. Thank you, everyone, for sending in your comments. It's always fun. We do this show with you, not necessarily for you. The whole idea is to all of us engage and talk and have fun and keep the excitement about the cosmos alive. And, sometimes we'll disagree, sometimes we'll agree, but it's always fun. And I think that's kind of the point. And I'm in 2013, I'm probably going to add a little bit, we're going to play with the show format a little bit more. I think we got a really good 3-segment thing going on, but I think I want to add a little bit more fun into the show in the forms of like sci-fi kind of stuff. Well, we're all interested in sci-fi too. Well, it'll still be the show.
You're like, add some more fun. Oh.
Well, there was a season where it was just giggling, right?
That's
just constant
true.
giggling. Not that. I'm just saying it might be fun to, there's a new Star Trek movie coming out. Just talking about that a little bit. A little bit, not a lot of it, right? So that, and then some of how that technology actually applies in real life, like some of the stuff, for example, your iPhone is better than their communicators.
Like the Tricorder X Prize, perhaps?
Tricorder X Prize. So there are ways you can tie this back in, but it's still fun and geeky, and we're all geeks, and we all like to have fun. So, yeah. So that's our show for likely all of 2012. I'd like to thank everyone so much for watching us, and we're going... Whoa. We're not going to do that.
Ben lost the show.
I lost the show. We'll see you in 2013.
Dragon deploy verified.
And welcome to Spacevidcast 5.20 for Saturday, December 22nd, 2012. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me, as always, is beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented Carrie Ann Higginbotham. I'm going to tell you this straight up. We didn't think we were going to be here anymore. end of the world, so we didn't really prep a show.
We were out late last night. It was awesome.
Yeah, so this show, yeah. And actually,
we're still wearing the same clothes as yesterday.
Actually, stay tuned in the second half of the show. Weird. Second half of the show, Carrie Ann, gave her homework to go and look at our predictions for 2012 and see how good we did. And you said, on that show, I said the single dumbest thing I've ever said in my life, and I don't actually know what it is. Scale model of the Dream Chaser earlier this year, but they are prepping to do a for realsies drop test of a full scale model, or of a full unit, full thing, by March. It wouldn't be a working unit, but
a mock-up.
A mock-up. There you go. That's I was looking for the word. Drop test of a full mock-up by March. So that's kind of and that'll be, I believe, at Dryden. I believe they did it before at Dryden, so it'll probably still be at Dryden. Yeah, so that is the way that works is it launches atop a rocket like an Atlas. Oh, hey, you know what? I can go back to the picture and describe it way better.
Okay.
Boom, check this out. I'll drop
Boom.
the graphic. Boom.
So it's sort of like the arrow at the end of a... It's like the actual arrowhead at the end of an arrow?
Kinda, yeah. So you can see it launching atop an Atlas V rocket, then it separates from the Atlas V. You've got 7 humans on board, just as you would with the space shuttle. It can then go up to the International Space Station, dock, do what you need to do, and then it lands like an airplane, just like the space shuttle did. So the big difference here is, unlike taking, the space shuttle, you took off and you had the 2 external boosters and the that's not what. Wow! I told you.
Wow.
That's not 2 external boosters on the space shuttle would be kind of cool looking.
Sure.
It had the
Let's
2
do that.
solid rocket motors and the 1 external booster on the space shuttle. So this is the equivalent of just kind of strapping on a big external tank on the bottom of it instead of on the gas exiting in excess of Mach 8. That's always awesome.
Awesome.
So awesome to Mass Space Systems continue. I wonder what they're going to use the engine for.
Probably for that barbecue.
Right. Actually, that was funny. That's a fun story. I don't know. I don't have the picture, but.
Oh, that's unfortunate. So Mass Space Systems lost 0 earlier this year.
Isn't it 0?
0.
Oh, whatever.
0, 0. It's made with an X anyhow. I'm sure we showed that video for sure, but there's enough of it where you can make a barbecue. So it's got the legs, and they just made it into a barbecue. So it's at Mass and Space Systems, just living on in infamy as now an actual barbecue. They put little hot dogs on it and stuff. It's really cute.
I just thought that through.
I think it's a great way to recycle.
The
What? You've got it.
blew up the rocket, reuse it, turned it into a barbecue. I don't know.
I think that's awesome.
Moving right along. Dream Chaser, for those who don't know, we lost the space shuttle. That sounds foreboding, doesn't it?
Space shuttle program ended.
Space shuttle program ended, and there is no space shuttle replacement per se. We're going back to capsules, except for this. This is Sierra Nevada's Dream Chaser. They did a drop test of I want to say 1/15th, as I said. She won't tell me. And so we get to hear the single dumbest thing, and I've said some stupid stuff, single dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, coming up at the second half of the show. But before we get there, let's go into some space news, starting off with Maston Space Systems, good friend Dave Maston. They tested their new Katana class engine. Hang on, let's just...
You gotta see this.
Well, it's just an engine test.
I know, but it's awesome.
All right, here you go. Boom.
I had to count again, but there was like 8 diamonds. Did you see that? It was so pretty.
It did look pretty. It was reminiscent. If you go back and check the Super Draco tests that SpaceX posted, it was reminiscent of that. Yeah, it looked pretty freaking cool. So, I have stats on that engine too. If you'd like, hang on, I have to call them up. I don't remember them off the top of my head. I want to say it was 4,000 foot-pounds of thrust, rated up to 4,000 pounds of thrust. But this engine running at 2,800 pounds of thrust.
It was a lot though. It may not have been 8. But I'm saying when you look at that video, there's like 4, at least 4, 6 possibly. It's hard to tell because of the angle, but
2 часа 28 минут. Масса...
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Touchdown, we have touchdown. Exit zone.
Gone from start.